for years, we had a mowing crew, we had an install crew, and we had a landscape maintenance or installation crew, depending on the time of year. So we had like 9-10 guys at a point. That's when I started to kind of like crunch the numbers. I'm like, God, this isn't working. I enjoy being outside. I don't really like the office part. At that point, I'm managing people. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. So we kind of slimmed down a little bit, got rid of the mowing, and focused on the hardscaping and the landscaping. Fast forward to now, we have basically all but done away with even our hardscaping, and we are now focused mainly on land clearing, excavation.
Okay, so you went from 5-6 guys doing multi-6-figure projects,
right,
and maybe your overall revenue was higher, but then you went down to 3 guys doing labor machine work, and your revenue shrank, but your net profit went up.
Yes, exactly.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Good news, clink right there. Well, it is 20 after 9 in the morning. We've been enjoying a pretty cool tour of the Todd Quality Enterprises compound, sprawling displays and shops, and it's a beautiful property you have here, Mark.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I knew you lived down here close to Philly, so I didn't expect there to be like a 31-acre little farmette.
Yeah, we got pretty fortunate.
Yeah,
pretty fortunate. It's been a lot of work to get to this point.
Yeah,
I'm really happy with it, and it's pretty relaxing, as you can see.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. And if you're tuning in for the first time, welcome to the Cost of Doing Business show. Mark has been a customer for going year and a half.
Yeah, it'll be 2 years pretty soon.
Customer SynkedUp. So this is the first time I actually got to come down and see your property. So
yeah,
thanks for having me.
Absolutely, thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Basically, the story of that happened is I'm going to be over here at Woodward Supply doing a talk, and Mark saw it on my Instagram. He's like, dude, you know that's a mile from my house, right? It's like, I had no idea. So.
Yeah, might as well stop by.
Yeah, exactly. You have a incredible old stone farmhouse and a barn that you pretty much completely overhauled and gutted, right?
1809 farmhouse. When we bought it, it was the real estate agent tried to talk me out of it and saying, you know, I mean, I went over with you, but the guy was like, do you understand the difference between asset and liability? I'm like, well, I'm like 11 years in the business at this point, you know. 2008, it just happened. I'm like, I have a pretty good idea. There's a lot of sweat equity here.
I can see it.
It's definitely taken a while to get to this point, but it's definitely something to be proud of. And yeah, we're really happy with it.
My hat goes off to anybody that buys a fixer-upper and lives in it while they fix it up, man.
Like, yeah, just me and the dog.
Yeah, it makes it a little more bearable.
A little bit. I think Lauren probably thought I was crazy at the time, but we made it work.
Like my wife and I, we pretty much did that multiple times over. So like, we got married over there in Romania. We built that cabin, and we pretty much, as soon as it had a roof on it, we pretty much moved into it. So it was same story. Then when we got back to the States, it was kind of similar again, because we moved into this little cabin thing that we were fixing up and put a bedroom in and stuff on my dad's property until we figured out and found a place. And when we finally did find a place, it was a foreclosure. Like if I'd had more money, it'd just been better to push it over and start over. But you know. Yeah. You get the idea. So yeah, we've done it 2-3 times over, and that's why I say, like, you know, it's not for the faint of heart, but man, the outcome is amazing.
Yeah, it's nice, and we use it as a showpiece. You know, we can bring people in, and you know, if we can get people here, getting them to sign after that is
really
easy. Because at that point they're just picking product and seeing what we're capable of.
Yeah.
And you know, ahead of time I'll have something on the smoker, and
dude,
you know, that scent, and like they see this whole experience.
It's a lifestyle.
And it's way different than just going to your distributor and looking
exactly. You see it lived here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not handing a catalog. I haven't used a catalog in years. You know, it was just come over, hang out for a half hour, take your shoes off, walk on the different styles of pavers, see how that's going to be around the pool.
Yeah.
You know, get the whole experience.
Yeah. Man, getting the smoker going, that's killer. That's like...
It's kind of like when you go by Burger King and they've got the smoke coming out. It's like, yeah, they're doing that for a reason.
Yeah. Do you have the proposal, like, so you have the grill and then the plate with the meat on it, and then the proposal, like the sign?
No, the proposal and then the signature, because once they sign, then they can eat.
Oh, that's hilarious. For everybody listening here, give us an intro of yourself, your business, what your business looks like, what services you do, how many guys you have, that kind of thing.
All right. I mean, I started out like everybody else, just cutting grass in college or in high school, doing all that. Sold that business, went to college, got my degree from Penn College in landscape nursery technology. So after that, literally the day after graduation, my first dump truck was delivered, and it was off to the races. I had been going back every weekend from Williamsport to here to do jobs all weekend, and then go back and do classes to graduate early. For years we had a mowing crew, we had an install crew, and we had a landscape maintenance or installation crew depending on the time of year. So we had like 9-10 guys at a point. That's when I started to kind of like crunch the numbers. I'm like, God, this isn't working. I enjoy being outside. I don't really like the office part. At that point, I'm managing people. It just wasn't, I wasn't enjoying it anymore. So we kind of slimmed down a little bit. In 2018, we got rid of the mowing and focused on the hardscaping and the landscaping. Fast forward to now, we have basically all but done away with even our hardscaping, and we are now focused mainly on land clearing, excavation, basically machine work. We made the investment. Yes, we're green hose guys, and so we have 2 steel wrists. We have some very, very nice equipment. We have no problem investing very heavily in equipment because I'd rather have machines than guys, and we have scaled down to the point where we're running 3 guys and 4 machines on some jobs.
Wow.
It's been a total change of everything, and even just mentally not being booked out 6-8 months like normal, because a lot of the land clearing work and everything they want done within the month, or 4 to 6 weeks, so it's a little bit different getting ready for that. But I had gotten to the point where I was like, I have sometimes $500,000 worth of equipment sitting on a job site, and I'm breaking my back laying pavers.
Yeah.
Or running the cutoff saw, and I'm like, what am I doing here? So we've really made a switch to that in the last year or so. It's been pretty awesome. The guys really enjoy it. We're still doing some things here and there for select clients. We haven't gotten out of it 100%.
Yeah.
You don't lose the skill, and it's nice to have stuff to fall back on.
Absolutely.
If the economy changes or whatever.
Yeah.
We went through 2008. Okay, so we kind of always operate with that in the back of our heads as far as being prepared for what could happen.
Having a redundancy.
Yeah. It's kind of nice. And we still have some clients, because it's good filler work too. We still do some stuff like that. So you get a rainy day and it's a mud fest at the job you're at. You don't have to go there just to get the guys' hours. There's always we always have other options.
When you switched that, did you see a difference in how much revenue? So you scaled down from what, 9, 10 to 3 over the course of how many years?
Probably over the course of 6-7 years.
Was there another intermediate step there between the 9 and 10? Like what were you at there?
Where we were basically, all we were doing was 3-4 projects a year. And they were multi 6-figure jobs. But they were keeping us, I mean, we'd be there for months at a time.
They were like what you have here, like full outdoor living space. Yeah,
exactly. We're bigger. It was a big change of pace, like real big change of pace. Like, because you go from going to the same job site for months at a time to, you're on a job for a week, or you're on a job for a couple days, or whatever.
Did you see a difference in like the overall revenue? Like, was the revenue about the same going from 5-6 guys to 3, or did it grow or shrink?
So there's some big differences. We didn't have the material costs, so you're not billing for the materials. So that's where it gets really,
it's more
really
like
kind of hard to look at your gross numbers. But when you look at it as in, okay, if I'm billing 3 guys and I have 4 machines there, and 3 are running at any one given time, that's like billing out for at least 6-7 guys, right? Because you're billing out for the machine and you're billing out. So
you charge for the hour and the machine separately.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. So
you have a machine hour rate and you have a labor hour rate.
Yep. And then depending on what attachment we're running, because some of these attachments are $25,000.
So you count that.
You have to build that in. Additionally, that did take a little bit to start tracking and whatnot, and this was really before we started with SynkedUP, where it was how are we recovering all those costs? Because I'm used to looking at all these big numbers where I might do a $300,000 job, but you've got $100,000 plus of materials, then you've got all the labor and all that, and then going to jobs where it's almost purely labor and machine time, and you might have a couple pipes here and there or whatever, but it was definitely a big change of how we looked at everything about the business.
So did the revenue come down and the profit went up? What happened?
Yeah, I mean,
overall revenue.
Yeah, but I mean that goes back to the whole top line is vanity, bottom line is sanity thing. If you don't focus on those numbers and you're focusing on what you're making, then that really is the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly. Did the profit grow or shrink with the switch? The net profit, the bottom line.
Net profit definitely grew.
Okay, so you went from 5-6 guys doing multi-6-figure projects, and maybe your overall revenue was higher, but then you went down to 3 guys doing labor machine work, and your revenue shrank, but your net profit went up.
Exactly.
So what are the pros and cons between the two? Like if somebody's like, maybe I want to do that. Like what would you tell them to be mentally ready for?
Well, like I said, the backlog's different. I always had 6 to 8 weeks or months of work. Always booked out really far.
With multi-six-figure projects, that's kind of,
So, I mean, that's you get in a very, almost, it's hard to not get complacent at that point, because you're like, oh, I don't have to worry about really selling jobs or, because I've got this much to get me through this year. I don't need to worry about last year. I mean, it's hard to stay focused to a certain extent, but with this change, we are advertising. I hadn't advertised in years. Learning how to advertise, learning how to use Facebook ads, learning, how important Google reviews were and the my business page and all that. Like, there's been days where I'm like, man, I feel like I'm starting a whole new business.
Because you kind of are.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's a different model.
The same equipment for the most part, but I'm approaching things a whole lot differently now.
Yeah.
It's really been interesting. It has been nice. I don't have as many guys. I don't have to worry about, are all these guys going to show up? Are they all getting along? I have great guys. I can afford to pay them better now. I can put them in really nice equipment. The last couple guys we've found through Instagram. Because they followed us for years. Just local guys seeing our equipment. They see a blacked out truck and a blacked out excavator with a
appeal
that's sitting sideways on a trailer.
They're like, I want to do that.
I mean, we snap necks. It's the guys always get a kick out of going through intersections because every other landscape truck is like breaking their neck to see what is that thing on the back of that truck. So
that is hilarious.
But as funny as it is, those are the intangibles. Like, you can try to get guys by paying them as much money, and that works for a certain extent. But if you're treating them well, you're giving them awesome equipment to run, they're not breaking their backs doing the work. It makes their lives easier. It makes them happier. They've got plenty of energy at the end of the day to go do other stuff. We work 410s for the most part of the year. March, April, May. We'll go 5 days. Okay. Because it's just, this is the time to make hay while the sun shines type thing. Yeah. But for the rest of the year, we go that way. That way they can take a 3-day weekend. My main guy goes RVing a lot, so they can take off Thursday afternoon and they've got the whole weekend to go do stuff. So it's really nice. Yeah. The more you can make a better experience for the guys, the better. Yeah. I'm just thinking back to my days of running a crew at Tussie, and we never did we talked about it, but we never did the 4-day work week. But man, it sure makes, if you're an hourly employee or you're an employee producing work, it sure is nice to have that day to take care of your business. If you got a doctor's appointment or whatever, like, you can do that without taking off of work. Exactly. As a foreman, the moment you take off of work, it impacts a couple other people too. And it's like, you got to figure out a game plan. And like, that was probably the thing that I did not enjoy the most about running a crew was if I needed to cut out early for a personal thing, it impacted not just me, but other people, and I had to overcome that somehow. That was the hardest part. Yeah. On the employer end, it's a lot easier for me to schedule because if we get a rain out, we'll work Friday. You'll keep up, So we haven't worked a Saturday in probably the last 5 or 6 years. Wow. Okay, so, that alone is a big selling point to new guys. Yeah. Having that 4 days, you're eliminating a whole day on the front end and back end of mobilization. Yeah. Even if you're working, all our job sites are pretty close, but even if it's 10 minutes away and you've got 3 guys in a truck, they're half hour there, half hour at the end of the day, and if they're unloading and loading trucks, it's a decent bit of time that you're losing. Yeah. And now that's, on-site time. When I showed up this morning, you were telling me a little bit about like how, when you bought SynkedUP for your business, you weren't really on your focus wasn't really to know your numbers. Like you kind of had that figured out via, I guess, spreadsheets. Yeah, and I'm not going to say I had it completely figured out. You were paying attention to it, put it that way. I had a strong grasp. Yeah, yeah. The reason I really liked it, and granted, I've been looking for years. I've been going to GIE or whatever they call it now for years, with the intention of trying to find software, but like nothing really seemed like it checked all the boxes for me. And with SynkedUP, I did a demo with you, and then we didn't sign up for a while, and then at AC for the Mott show, we talked, and I had Foreman with me because I wanted to. I remember that, yeah. I am not very technical. Like, I'm not like, I don't have a lot of tech stuff, so I'm not good at that, but I wanted to make sure it was something he wanted, because if I get the buy-in from the guys, that's going to make it a whole That makes all the difference in the world. And just having it on the mobile app and so easy to use and whatnot, he knows how to use SynkedUP better than I do, honestly. You're not the first person on the podcast to tell me that. Okay, yeah. It's, I make no bones about that. And he knows, and the support is great because, like, if he can't figure something out, I'm like, don't ask me, just a hold of support, and they've got them figured out real quick. But yeah, going back to your question, I ended up at the end of the days, especially if we had one job on going with one guy in a machine, then 2 machines over at this job, I've got different route sheets coming back in the office, and they're piling up by the end of the week. I have all this stuff that I have to go through, make sure they did the math right, make sure I'm doing the math right, aggregate all their hours, aggregate all the materials that we used, all the hours that they worked, make notes on the project, try to keep an idea of how to track, does the client not want you to pull out this shrub, this, that, and the other, and try to keep all that track on paper was just killing me. I think the realization came down at Mott's was when I was like, okay, it's going to cost what, $400 a month or whatever. If I look at what it would cost me to hire like an administrative assistant, and say she only worked 10 hours a month at $40 an hour to do all that for me, why not just buy the software? Then I get all the good job tracking, then I get all the cost analysis, then I get all the ridiculous ease of billing. Switching from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online was a little bit of a sticking point for me too, because I was like, I've used QuickBooks Desktop for 23 years,
Wow.
This is going to be hard, it's already hard to enter all that info, but now that I'm using it and gotten used to it, there's a lot of things, even about the QuickBooks end, the force to that switch that I like more. So that was a nice little surprise as well.
Yeah, because that's a thing we run into all the time. Somebody that has their mom-in-law doing their books, and they've been doing it for 30 years, and they've been doing it on desktop. And like, there's actually, one guy I just talked to recently is like, he loves what we do at SynkedUP and all of that, but at the end of the day, that QuickBooks Desktop thing was a deal breaker for him. So I try to promote or share stories like that. It's like, it's the fear of the unfamiliar that is the thing.
Yeah,
but you know,
I'm not going to gloss over it at all. It's very hard to get established, to get it all working the way it should.
It takes work,
take advantage of it. I was probably a couple days away from being like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. It was such a shock to my system because it was so much that I wasn't used to. But man, if I had done that, knowing what I know now, it's like, wow, that would have been a big mistake. So.
Yeah. You gave the description of kind of like what you were living under, like trying to keep track of all this stuff manually and all that. What does it look like now? Your daily process, like instead of all the stacks of the papers on your desk, and
it's like having my own admin basically. If I want to know how many hours the guys work on a job, look it up right away. If I want to send out a bill for, because we could do a lot of time and material billing. If I want to get that caught up at the end of the week, it's a couple clicks. My estimates go out a lot faster. I've got templates for stuff now. So I enter all that in, and in 15 minutes, I've got a very professional looking estimate that then, once they approve it, auto issues the deposit invoice. I'll send out an invoice, and I've had it a half hour later. Not only do I have it approved, but the money's in my account. Like, it's like, okay, this is... an admin wouldn't have done it that fast.
Right.
You don't have the human error potential either of all those calculations and whatnot. So yeah, it's almost like I hired office staff.
Yeah,
honestly.
That's awesome. And you're avoiding all the manual, going through a stack of papers, adding it all up, getting the bill, getting the invoices sent out to clients, getting payroll run, and
$400 a month.
Yeah,
like,
and
I mean,
if you're out for dinner on a Thursday night, you can be like, how many hours did we work on that job? You like, click, there it is. It's like, I get that.
I've even had it. Somebody's talking about some extra work, and it's similar to a job. Well, I can pull up that job real quick and be like, all right, well, we planted a row of 40 of these.
Took us this long.
It was about this, so to give you a pretty close ballpark, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Without even having to
do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love to hear
and
that.
If my guys need an address, I mean, they can pull it up on the phone and see any notes about the job or enter any pictures that, for us with the heavier machines, so like we'll take pictures of cracks in the sidewalk if we have to drive
before you get there,
whatever,
yeah.
Damage that, just to have some sort of record, and it's all there. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah. What is the most difficult challenge that you went through in your business story?
Probably has been this whole switch. We had wanted to get into more excavation and more brush clearing stuff, but my whole goal had been, I had a foreman for 9 years who's going to take over that. And right as I made a huge investment in a machine for that crew, and we were going to have basically him take over the hardscape stuff, he decided to go out on his own and start his own business. While I can't blame him, that hurt. Because after 9 years, I mean, it was like, I just spent a lot of money. I just made a big investment, and now that's gone. And then we were kind of in a situation where we had all the work sold. We had to get that done, and then we had to pivot. And getting out of a comfort zone that much and going from what we've been doing for 20 plus years and going into this whole relative unknown has been interesting, but at the same time it's been kind of fun because things, you can get a little stale after a while, you know, and having that forced change was probably in the end a good thing, but it was hard to accept at the time. You know, but
is your 9-year employee leaving kind of what triggered this transition?
it's probably what finally put it into motion.
Okay.
It probably should have happened a long time ago.
Okay.
You know,
So it wasn't a new idea.
it wasn't a new idea.
Yeah.
It's just, it had never been forced upon me. And like I said before, you get in a rut. And, you know, these jobs are coming so easy. And it was just referral after referral of $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 projects. It's a big mindset change to not be doing those anymore. You know, and had it not been forced upon me, I don't know that we would have really made the pivot into something else.
Now that you had that experience, is there something you actively do to try to avoid that rut, or was it just kind of the rhythm you were in that kind of?
I think just being aware of it.
Okay.
More so because this is basically all I've ever done. So it's all I know. Being aware of the fact that I need to challenge myself more, I think was the greatest realization that came out of that, and constantly working on improving and not sitting back and kind of putting on autopilot.
I think it's a temptation for any human being, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, I fully realized I was guilty of it, and, you know, the only thing you can do is learn from
your
any
experiences.
situation.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. You've been in business for a long time.
Yeah.
What's the best advice you've been given?
Best advice, I think, would vary depending on the time of season that you're in.
Okay.
Business, because I've gotten a lot of good advice and I've gotten a lot of bad advice, and the thing is, like, something I would perceive as bad advice might be good advice for someone else.
Okay. What's a paradox like that? Like,
it might even be in your podcast or somebody's podcast not too long ago. Somebody was asked a question like that, and they said not saying no and just trying new stuff. I had a professor who told us, you know, take every job you can get, you'll learn from it, it'll be a learning experience. And I did that for years. And I got really strung out with doing just every single job you can imagine within the industry and trying to do it the best I can, but not being as efficient as I could if I would have niched down sooner. So I think I would counter that with one of the most important things is learning when to say no and not being afraid to say no. And not at the beginning of the year when you're slow and you don't have a lot of work, taking on any kind of work you can take, because then when the jobs you do want come along, you're all booked up with jobs that
you don't want, right?
That you don't really enjoy doing.
So what do you think is the catalyst to knowing when to say no? Like, how do you know when to say no?
I think at a certain point when you're early on, if you don't really know what you want to do and you're just starting out, to a certain point you do need to take some stuff on and experience.
Kind of experiment.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Because if you don't do that, then you might be missing out on something you really enjoy. You know, there's some guys with the water features, for example, didn't do them, and then they did a fountain like that or something. Now that's all they're doing.
Right.
But they wouldn't have known if they would have said no to that job,
Right.
because it was out of their comfort zone.
Right.
So it's a very fine line. If you just say yes to everything, you get yourself so spread thin, and you're not efficient at anything.
It's easier to say yes than it is to say no. Like in our culture, like it's hard to say no.
Right,
like, and I see it in myself, and then sometimes I'm like, why did I do that? You know, because all I did is make it hard for me to do what I said I was going to do to him, instead of just saying no.
I mean,
you know?
I struggle with it to this day. I mean, I can sit here and say it's a very important thing, but I still struggle
But
with
I think, you know, back to the catalyst idea of how do you know when to say no, I think what's important is you got to know what you want. And to your point, in the early days, you might not quite know yet what you want. You're still experimenting.
Right.
But to the degree that you know what you want is also to the degree that you can say no to bring about what it is that you want, your vision, your goal. And if you don't know what your vision and goal is, well then what are you going to base your no off of? Yeah. You know, just because you don't feel like it, or, you know, we all have days we don't feel like doing things that we should do, you know? Right. So I like what you're saying about, like, what is good advice for me might be bad advice for you. What was bad advice for me might be good advice for you, depending on your season.
Exactly. And also who you're taking advice from. Because, I mean, sometimes I'm a little bit jealous, or whatever you want to call it, of the kids these days that have all this information at their fingertips.
Oh, you aren't kidding. Like, yeah.
But at the same time, there's sometimes too much information or wrong information.
Well, I think it's changing. It's like, you know, say before the internet, like 20 years ago when you were starting your business. At that time, access to the information was a legitimate bottleneck.
Yes.
It was the thing that held you back.
Exactly.
Today, it's like there's an overflow of information, and it's more about the ability to be able to focus and be like, what am I going to double down on? Because there's a million different voices, you know, and it can be easy to devolve down into a self-help addict, or buy this course, follow the, like, or all you're doing is listening to these tactics and principles and blah 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 blah, but you never do anything yourself. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Or you're just taking it from the wrong people
that have different visions or goals than what you have for yourself.
That's the thing. So, like, if you want to end up like a Perfect Cut or something like that, then be taking advice from a Corey Ballard or something like that. If you want to end up like Mulder, take advice from people like that, but don't expect like somebody like me or some 20-year-old who's got a good Instagram page, who's never seen any recession or any type of bad time other than the last couple years, which are such an extreme case in easy to sell jobs. Don't take that and expect to grow to a point where you're making millions of dollars if you're just taking advice from somebody who's never even broken $1 million or whatever. It all depends. Knowing what you want to do, finding out what you want to do, and learning who to listen to. But yeah, as far as best advice, I mean, I think for me, long term, and really the whole Todd Quality thing and how we've always run the business, Colossians 3:23. Do everything to the best of your ability as to the Lord, not to man. It's not do the things you think are important to the best of your ability and then whatever to everything else. Do everything. And I think that is what has really made the difference for us, striving to do our best. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say be the best. Right. Do your best. Yeah. Okay. So there's a big difference. I think people get lost in the weeds with that. But I think that's something that we really take to heart, and that's just what our focus is day in and day out.
I really appreciate that. That's really good. And I noticed on the tailgate of your truck out there, the Henry Ford quote of like, how does it go?
The Henry Ford quote. Quality is kind of one of those things where it's like not everybody cares about. Like, there's people who, they want their lawn cut for $50. They want their lawn cut for $50, and that's it. They don't care about how well it's done or whatever. But we have enough clients around here that we really, that's all their focus is. They just want to know that professionals are going to show up and be on their property, interacting with their kids, and doing excellent work. Mm-hmm. That's really what we've always been focused on, no matter what we're doing.
How does that Henry Ford quote go? Quality is when no one's looking. Doing your best when no one's looking.
Yes.
Doing your best even if no one is looking, or something to that effect.
Yep. And that's kind of one of those things. Even when we were mowing, you're not skipping the string trimming in the backyard. You're making sure everything's tightly edged from the get-go, and that you can apply that to any part of your life. Mm-hmm. But well, you've done 75 hard, I've done it. A lot of guys are in the whole Andy Frisella thing. He talks all the time about personal excellence. Okay, and how you do one thing is how you do anything.
100%. Okay? I could not agree more with that.
That's where, whether you want to, I don't care if you aren't a Christian, you aren't whatever. I really don't care, but you can still apply that. That's just been our focus.
Yeah. How you do anything is how you do everything. Yeah. I could not agree more with that. And you see it in employees, you see it in workplace, you see it in personal, like relationships, friends, that kind of thing. You see it in everything.
Yeah, exactly.
It always, like, somebody, I don't know, throws trash or doesn't clean up after themselves, and it's like, what's the big deal? And it's like, well, okay, you just gave me a peek into how you're going to approach an important task.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we, I think one of the other trucks has a Steve Jobs quote, so I'm probably going to misquote it, but basically be a yardstick of quality that all others are measured against.
Sure.
So that's what's put us ahead of our competition, if you want to call it that. But and even that, I don't really see other contractors as competition. Because a lot of guys we try to work with, especially if they do the same quality. Yeah. And that's why I'm passionate about trying to get even local guys to get synced up and get more professional, because you're elevating the whole industry.
Right.
Rising tide lifts all ships.
Yep.
If I'm getting better, great. But if I can help everybody else get better, they're going to push me to get better.
It's only going to help everybody else.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just, I wish everybody in our area had synced up, had tilt rotators, had all that, because the level of service that people would expect, then their expectations are higher. Yeah. Then their expectations of the price being higher is higher. So it just benefits everyone.
100%.
But if you're all fighting against each other and dog eat dog world, who's benefiting from that?
Yeah, it's a race to the bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
If you go back to day one, when you started your business, how old were you then?
I was 14.
So if you could go back to then and talk to Mark Todd, 14-year-old Mark Todd, what will you tell him?
Buy Apple stock. I mean,
That's okay. That's a good one.
like business-wise?
Yes.
I think there's a lot of things. My biggest struggle to this day is probably delegation and loosening the leash as much as I should. So it would probably be hire foreman level guys immediately and not try to be the foreman and try to be the smartest guy on the crew, because I think the biggest growth we had in one stage was when I had 3 crews and I couldn't be everywhere at once, and I had to go out and pay the money to hire somebody really good, and the difference that made, having somebody that knew how to do the work. I mean, I was paying you more than I was making at the time. You know, the difference it made in everything, from running the business to profitability to everything, was huge. So I think learning to be good at delegation, learning leadership at an earlier age, taking the time to read the books and not focusing on working in the business all the time, and working on myself and my leadership skills and my ability to run a business, I think would have been a bigger focus.
I think I hear that more than I hear just about anything else, and that is focus on learning how to run the business instead of learning how to do the work.
Right.
Learning how to do the work is what your team should be doing.
Yeah. And for me, that's what I enjoy. Like, I
Sure, because that's what got you into the business in the first place. Yeah,
exactly. I hate being in the office.
Yeah.
Like, I passionately detest, especially you could be a beautiful day like this. The last thing I want to do is go in there and do invoices and all that stuff. Like, it just, I don't get any enjoyment out of it. But I have friends who, you know, they brag about they haven't worked in the field in 3 years. I'm like, well, that would kill me.
The cool thing is, as the owner, you get to pick. Like Steve at Tyson Landscaping, he's the same way. He hates being in the office.
Yeah.
He's probably not in the office more than they drag him in there, you know? But he gets to do that. Right. Meaning he hires the people to work in the office, so he doesn't have to.
Yes, and that's why, going back to like the advice thing, like he likes doing that, I like doing that, but somebody might give the advice of, you got to be in the office and work on the business.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I mean, work on the business, yes.
Right.
Doesn't mean you have to be in the office.
Yes, exactly.
But on the same token, though, if you say you do want to work in the field, not in the office, and you hire someone to do the office work for you, the principle that's the true regardless is you should not be the slave to the field, meaning you shouldn't have to be in the field all the time.
The whole project shouldn't revolve around
Yes, you're in the field when you want to be, meaning the business can continue running without you, regardless whether your preferred position's in the field or in the office.
Yes.
You know.
And if I would have changed that sooner, I think we'd look a lot different than we do today.
Yeah.
You don't know.
You don't know. And that's exactly why I asked this question, man. That's exactly why I asked this question.
Yeah, you know, anybody listening in a startup phase or whatever, sooner you can learn to trust people more.
Yeah.
I always made the excuse, you know, well, it's Todd Quality, so my name's on it. And quality's, you know, so it's got to be perfect.
Yeah, I get it.
You know,
there's 2 books you should read if this is your struggle. E-Myth.
I know what you're going to say.
Which one?
Buyback.
Yes.
Yes. I have it. I literally just, I'm like...
E-Myth first, then Buy Back Your Time second.
Chapter 1 and...
Okay.
Yeah, I literally just...
It's actually not that hard of a read. E-Myth actually was harder for me to finish than Buy Back Your Time was.
The regular one, or
well, I think I read the regular one.
Tony Bass write a one for landscapers?
I think he did. I didn't read that one. I read the regular one. The principle in the E-Myth book is systems and processes are the keys out of the entrepreneurial prison. Like everything we're talking about here, like you're slave to your position or whatever, like systems and processes are the keys out of it. And systems and processes looks like you have defined the system and process with which the work gets done out in the field, and you've also defined the system and process with which the admin work gets done. That's where SynkedUP comes in. It's funny, like we were just talking about this as an engineering team in our meeting, I think it was last week, we were saying about like, you know, it's funny how some apps, it's like, well, we want to have our users in the app as much as possible. And like a social media app, let's say, like the more minutes a day they're in, the better they're doing. We want to minimize it as much as possible. Absolutely. We want to go the other way, but get the work done. Like get the business problem solved, get the invoices sent, get the estimates put out. Instead of it taking 2 hours to do an estimate, we want to take 5 minutes. The business problem is still getting solved in less time. And so it's a weird paradox in terms of like us measuring as a software company of how are we winning.
It's like golf. You're winning if you're
lower, right, exactly, yeah. Thanks a million for having me here and the hospitality. I mean, literally we were in the living room, the kitchen, the Bronco in the garage, and
we still have a forestry mulcher to run.
Exactly. We need to get that. Yeah, we're gonna get that done. We're gonna go run the forestry mulcher and run over here to Woodward and do a talk on 2 ways contractors lose profit. You can give me your critical feedback after the talk's done.
Sounds good.
Take your notepad.
Yeah.
I'm always looking to learn, because really what I'm doing is it's a game of how do I say, what's the messaging or what's the delivery, like how do I frame it in a way that the person that thinks they don't need to listen, listens. Right. That's the challenge I have. So give me your
I'm
notes.
very curious, yeah. I'll definitely have some impact. I think that'll be good.
Oh, you've got 20 years under your belt, so you got some experience on it, so you'll be a good critic. Where can people follow you?
Todd Quality, Instagram. We're on Facebook too, but Instagram's our main thing. Working on a new website, but Instagram gets us most of our work. Yeah. Most of our employees, so that's where we're pretty heavy on.
You coming to the Contractor Summit this fall?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, awesome.
Definitely. Last year was awesome, so yeah, I'm not missing that one.
Google SynkedUP Contractor Summit. We're doing it in Dayton, Ohio this year. We're going to be spotlighting Jeremy Swihart, J Squared's business. We're going to do a session that we call Cup of Coffee Roundtables in the morning, kind of before the sessions kick off. Last year you had a table, and I'd like to have you on there again.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. That was fun, and actually a lot of guys that were there I still talk to.
Kind of become friends. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and just bounce ideas off of. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool because it's just so cool, the community between Instagram, but also the SynkedUP guys. The week I signed up, you literally just put it in a story, and I had 3 or 4 guys reach out to me. I didn't know him from Adam, but now like Elmer from Pot of Luck reached out to me. He's like, yeah, you need any help with anything, just let me know. I'm like, dude, I don't know you. Now I know. And it's like this is it's such a cool community that it's really fun to be part of. So
that's awesome. Yeah. That is, I think, where I get the most joy from is watching and growing that community aspect.
Yeah, and I think everybody realizes how genuine you are, and especially at the summit, I think that really like struck home for a lot of guys, especially guys who weren't there as SynkedUP users or kind of just testing the water. To your credit, what you've done with that whole team and how passionate everybody is, I mean, kudos to you. It's you've done a phenomenal job with both the product, but also the team and the community that you're creating here.
Thanks, brother.
Well done.
Appreciate it. I'm looking forward for many more years of partnership, and kind of like Amazon's thing of customer obsession. Like, how can we always just continuously get better, you know? So appreciate that. That means a lot. Thank you, Mark.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming on the podcast. Yeah. We'll head over to the Woodward, and we'll go get some B-roll, run some machinery.
Sounds good.
All right.